One of the features missing from Azure SQL database is the SQL agent. We can't schedule jobs from within an Azure SQL database. In one of my previous videos, I've talked about other ways within Azure that you can run scheduled tasks against an Azure SQL database, such as Azure Automation, Scheduler Job Collection, and web jobs within App Services. But these require knowledge of other languages, such as Node.js, Powershell, or C#. In 2016, Microsoft added a scheduler to Azure SQL database called Elastic Database Jobs, and at the time of this recording, which is April 2018, it is still in preview. Now, Microsoft say Elastic Database Jobs for Azure SQL database allow you to reliably execute t-SQL scripts that span multiple databases while automatically retrying or providing eventual completion guarantees. Now, what this means is that you can run native t-SQL scripts against an Azure SQL database. You don't need to write complex PowerShell or C# code to run your scripts. More importantly, your script can be run against multiple databases in one go, and this makes it very handy for sharded databases within your Elastic pool, and it will continue to retry on each database until it completes or the timeout value is reached. But Elastic Database Jobs are not limited to running on databases within the Elastic pool. It can be set up to run against any Azure database. The bad news is that the options within the portal are very, very limited. The good news is we can install and run Elastic Database Jobs using PowerShell from your desktop. When you install Elastic Jobs, Azure will create a new resource group called _ Elastic Database Job. It will create a new SQL Server, a SQL database, service bus, storage account, and cloud service in the same data center as the Elastic pool, and these will be assigned the same random name. The SQL database is a series of tables that Azure uses to manage the jobs and schedules. As I've already said, the portal has very few options. Every job you create will always run on every database in the Elastic pool, and there is no way to schedule your job. Using PowerShell from your desktop gives you the access to the full set of options, including a scheduler and the ability to create groups of databases, and this doesn't require an Elastic pool. So in this demo, I will show you both the Elastic pool and the PowerShell versions of Elastic Database Jobs. Here I am in the Microsoft Azure portal. I've already selected SQL Elastic Pools, and I have one Elastic pool called Elastic S. If I select Elastic S, we'll get to our standard screen that we are used to seeing with Elastic Pools. And you'll see that we have two options up here, one called Manage Jobs and one called Create Jobs. Now I'm going to click on Manage Jobs. It doesn't really matter which one we click on to start off with. And we will be presented with this screen which will explain that it's going to create a cloud service, a SQL database, a service bus, and a storage account. We need to accept the preview terms, which I've already done, and now we need to enter the credentials. And these credentials will be used in the new Azure SQL Server that's going to be built. So I'm going to call my admin job admin. I'll give it a password. And then we can click OK. And then I will click Create. And this will start the process of building the Elastic Database Jobs. Now it takes about 10 or 15 minutes to do that, so I'm going to pause the video now and we will come back and see when it's complete. Right, welcome back. It's about half an hour later and we can see from the screen here that our deployment has been successful, and it has created our resource group _ Elastic Database Job, and it's created some new services using this name. So if we click on Go to Resource Group, shut down our window, we will see that we now have a SQL Server called EDJZ and lots of numbers, a SQL database, a service bus, a storage account, and a cloud service, which is all needed to run our Elastic Database job, and you can see these are all part of the resource group _ Elastic Database job. So let me click back on Elastic Pools, click on my Elastic S pool. So let's click on Create Job. First we need to enter the admin account for our Elastic Job database. So I'm going to put in job admin and the password and click OK. Now this conveniently just goes blank, which can be a bit confusing. If we shut this down and click on Create Job again, we now get a screen where we can start creating our job. So I'm going to call this my first job. I'm going to use a login name that has permissions to all the databases in my Elastic pool. And I'm just going to run a very simple query. So let's just say select, I can spell, star from sys.tables. Now if you look on the internet, nearly all the examples that you come across for Elastic pools involve creating a table, and I was intrigued as to why that is, because it doesn't seem the sort of thing that you would do on a regular basis with a scheduled task. You're more likely to want information returned from a scheduled job, hence select star from sys.tables. But I will demonstrate why people tend to use create table rather than just a select statement. So let me save this, and as you'll see the screen now goes blank and is expecting me to create a new job, which I don't particularly want to do. So let's close this down and we'll now go to manage jobs, and here you'll see the job that I created, my first job. Let me click on this, and here is the job. What do we get? Created, start, end, status as saved. We can view the script. So there it is, select star from sys.tables, and we can run the script. So let's run it and see what happens. So it will show you the status as it runs down there. So it's creating what it calls a shard map. So it's working out which databases it needs to run against, and here is the list of databases which are in my Elastic pool, and they're the ones it's going to run against, and you can now see it working its way through, and it's now completed running on all my databases in my Elastic pool. If I click on one of these, you'll see that it shows you the time it started, that it succeeded, the script execution. If I click on this, we get time, start, end, status, and message is blank. We don't actually get any information back from my select star from sys.tables. It has quite happily run it, but nothing is returned. And this is why nearly all the examples you'll have involve creating a table, so you can then go and look in all your different databases and see that a table has been created. Because if you just run a script that returns information, which is quite likely you'd want to do in a scheduled job, you get nothing back. It's completely empty, which rather makes a bit of a nonsense of scheduled jobs. You'll also see we can edit the script, we can't delete it, we can't delete this job, we can't do anything other than just manually run it again and view what the script looks like. And this is all you get with Elastic Database jobs through the portal. It is really, really limited and really pretty useless to be used as a replacement for SQL Agent. And that is all you can do. So we're going to leave our Elastic job in our Elastic pool because there's nothing more that we can do with it. And now let's go and have a look at how we can install Elastic jobs using Powershell and get all the full features of Elastic Database jobs. Welcome back to the third part of this video on Elastic Database jobs. Here we are now going to install and run Elastic Database jobs using PowerShell. I have a script on the screen If you would like a copy of this script, you can find it in the 4th edition of my ebook on Microsoft Azure, which you can download for free from gethinellis.com. The details will be at the end of this video. The first thing that we need to do is to install the Microsoft Azure SQL Database Jobs packages using NuGet. This is the command that we need to run. I've already run that, so I don't need to run it again. Once you've installed your package, you then need to change into the folder that it is created, SQL database.jobs, in this case 0.83362.1, and then into the tools folder, and then we can run the command to install the Elastic Database Job commandlets, which again I have already completed. The next stage is we need to actually log in to our Azure account. So let me run the login command. And I can type in my details. My password, and here we have successfully logged in to my Visual Studio MSDN subscription, and it has conveniently given me my subscription ID, which I need to copy from the screen down here because we're going to need that in this line here. If you don't know what your subscription ID is, if you come over to the portal and click on All Services, we have an option at the top here called Subscriptions, and this will actually show you your subscription and your subscription ID if you need it. So coming back to my PowerShell script, I need now to select my subscription ID. So let me run this line. That will connect me to my subscription ID. There we go. So we're now ready to create our Elastic Database Jobs server. For this, we're going to run the command install Elastic Database Jobs.ps1. We're going to use North Europe for our resource location. We need to specify our SQL Server administrator. In this case, we're going to use Elastic Admin, and the password that we want to use for this account. So let me click on this line. And some information has been returned to the bottom of the screen here. So it's going to create a new SQL Server for us called EDJ4294 and a load of other numbers in North Europe, and the server admin account is going to be Elastic Admin. The database will have the same name, as will the service bus namespace, which will also be in North Europe, and the storage account and the service name that it's going to create. So if we're happy with that, we can simply press return. So we see it's going to create a resource group with __ Elastic Database Job, which is exactly the same name as we saw when we used the portal to create our Elastic Database Jobs. Now this is going to take 5-10 minutes or so. So rather than sitting here watching the screen doing nothing in particular, I will pause the video and we will come back when it is completed. Welcome back. The Azure SQL Server and database has been successfully installed and we are ready for use. So the server name is called EDJ42 and lots of numbers. Same with the database name, and the username for that database is Elastic Admin. So the first thing we need to do is connect to our new Azure SQL database. So let me update the name in this script, and then we can run that command. I can then type in the login name, Elastic Admin, and the password. And that has successfully logged in to our new database. If I come over to Management Studio, I've already connected to our new database, and here it is. And if we open up the Tables tab, you'll see that there are a number of tables that it has created for us, and this is where all the objects for our Elastic Database Jobs will be placed. Interestingly, there are no views in here, which would be quite handy because this is a relational database. It would be handy to be able to have some views that join some of those tables together. And there are also no stored procedures, which you might have thought would have been in there. As we move on, we will see what is being populated into these tables. So let's go back to our PowerShell script. Now that we've connected to our Azure database, we need to create a credential. Now this credential will be used by the Elastic job to connect to all our target databases. So I'm going to create a credential called Elastic User. And again, I need to log back into my server. And once we've created our credential, we can now give that credential a password. So let me run this command. It's now going to ask for the password. So I will type that in. And that has successfully added the password to the credential. Now I've already created that logon on all the target databases that we're going to connect to, so we know it's going to work. Now we need to create our targets. These are the databases that we are going to connect to when we run our Elastic job. So first of all, I'm going to create a target to my EventureWorks 2012 database on my QEDZ server. So I can simply run that command, and that will return a target ID, which I'm going to need in a moment. So I'm going to make a copy of that into my paste buffer so I don't lose it. And then I'm going to create another job target to my EventureWorks 2016 database on my Clooney web server. Now when we come to run an Elastic job, we can run it either against an individual database, or we can run it against a custom collection of databases. So I'm going to create a custom collection called Elastic Collection 1. So let me create that. And then I am going to add my two databases to that custom collection. So I'm going to paste in that target ID that I kept in memory from my first database. So let's add that to the custom collection. And then I need that target ID from my second database. So I need to pick up this and update this statement. And now I can add that second database to my custom collection. And that's worked successfully. Now if we come over to Management Studio, I can show you now my target table. So let me show you the contents of the target table. And you can see that we have 3 rows in our target table. A target table type of database connected to my EventureWorks 2016, and another database connected to EventureWorks 2012, and then we also have a target of custom collection called Elastic Collection 1. And if we look in the custom collection membership table, we can see the relationship between the parent and the target IDs, which is where a view would have been handy to have been able to have compared that. So we've now created our targets where we want to run our scripts on. The next stage is to actually create a script. So I'm going to use this command, new Azure SQL job content, and we are going to create a command text called select star from sys.tables, the same as we did previously. And this script is going to be called test1. We can use a script command text, or we can actually specify a .SQL file for it to load if we have a very complex SQL file that we want to run. But we're going to keep things fairly simple. So let me run that in. and that's worked quite happily. If we want to add a comment to our script, then we can do it afterwards. We don't seem to be able to do it when we actually create it, and we can run this command to update and put a comment into our content for that. Now that we have a script, we need to create a job, and it is the job we will be running. So here I'm going to create two jobs. I'm going to create one job called test job 1, and that will run against the target ID for my collection, and then I'm going to create another test job called test job DB, and that target will be against one of my single databases. So if I come back over to Management Studio, my custom collection, the target ID is that, so I can copy and paste that into my script here, and then I can create a job called test job 1 that will use my credential called Elastic User, use the script called test 1, and it will be run against that target ID, so it will run against the two databases in that job collection. Similarly, let's go back to Management Studio and we'll select the AdventureWorks 2012 target, and I can then update this script, and that will create a job called test job DB, again using the credential Elastic User, running my script called test 1, but this is going against the target of just one database. And now that we've created our job, we can actually execute our job. So the simple command here is start Azure SQL job execution and the name of the job. So I am going to run our test job 1, which will run against those two databases. So let me run that selection, and off it goes. It's given me a job execution ID, which I can select. We can update this script with the correct execution ID, and then we can have a look and see how it's running. So we can see here that the job execution ID has created three executions against the three targets, one being the custom collection and then against the two databases in that collection. Now if we come over to Management Studio, we can look at the job task execution table. So if I select this, now we do need to add a where clause, an order clause to this, otherwise we can't really see what's going on. So let's run that again, and you'll see that there are quite a number of tasks running, not just our jobs. We've got cleanup tasks, telemetry collections and heartbeats going on. But if we scroll down to the end, we can see our two script executions that succeeded. The task execution, job execution IDs, the start time and the end time. This was fairly quick, but you'll notice there is a column called message, but no message is actually recorded. So just like when we were doing this through our Elastic Pool, there is no output from the commands that we've run, which is slightly annoying. If you do have a very large job which is taking a long time, then you can actually cancel the job. Just use the stop Azure SQL job execution command. Now that was running a command manually. We can schedule jobs to run using the Azure SQL job schedule command. Here are two examples of schedules. So schedule 1 minute, start time now, and with a minute interval of 1, or you can just say schedule here for 1 day, and we could say day interval of 1. But what I'm going to use here is a schedule where we're just going to have a start time with a type of 1 time. So let me update this to say the 25th of the 4th 2018 at 1951, which is a couple of minutes time. So let's just create this schedule to do a one-off run. And again, I can now create a trigger to trigger that schedule. So here we're going to say new Azure job trigger. The job name is test1 and the schedule name is once only. So let me run that. And that is now set up to run in a couple of minutes time. So while we're waiting for that to run, let's run this command. So let's get Azure job schedule, the test job 1, and that will return and tell me that the schedule name is once only, the interval is one time, and it's due to start at 25th of April at 1951, and the end time is sometime in the future. Obviously there's a command to disable the trigger if we want, Azure SQL database job trigger. Let me just set that to enabled equals false. While we're waiting for that to run, let me just explain execution policies to you. You can, if you want, define an execution policy and then define parameters like the retry interval. How long will it wait between each attempt to run on a database? So we can set that to a time span. We can say what the timeout is. Keep trying for 30 minutes in this case. What are the maximum number of attempts that you wish to try? And the maximum retry interval. And then there's a retry interval back off coefficient. So therefore, if you want to have different policies for different executions, depending on maybe how many databases it's running against, how long each one takes, the likelihood of it failing when it runs, then you can set up policies. And then when you create your job, you can just say the job name, the credential name, and the content as we've had before on the target. And at the end, you can just add execution policy name. So let's see if our job has run. Let's come back over to Management Studio, rerun our query, and if we scroll down to the bottom, here we can see the latest script task. So it starts off here, shard map refresh, script split, expand, and then the script execution and the script execution, and that run at 1851, which is actually 1951, I guess. It's storing that in Greenwich Mean Time rather than British Summer Time, so we can see that it has run successfully. But once again, there is no message. We don't get any output from my select star command, so we have no record of what it actually did. Let's come back to PowerShell. I have one more thing to show. As I said, you'll see that there isn't any output into that message column, but you can, if you want, configure your SQL job to write the output to a table, which can be on a completely different server. So we can say here, let's create a new job, and we've got another parameter here called result set destination server name. We can say Clooney Elastic Server.database.windows.net in this case, and the name of the database, and the schema that we wish to put it in, and the name of the table that we wish to put it in, and the credential needed to write it in there. But even if you do that, you still don't get anything useful in that table. All that it will tell you is the server name and the execution ID. You still don't get any output from the run, which is a bit disappointing. I hope this has given you a useful introduction to Elastic Database Jobs, where we can schedule and run t-SQL scripts against multiple databases. PowerShell gives us all the features we need, but it would be really nice if some of this was built into the portal with elastic pools. Maybe it will come. This is still classed as preview, so hopefully there will be some more improvements before this comes out. I hope this video has been useful to you. You can view more of my videos on Azure and SQL databases on my YouTube channel. There is also a free ebook available on Microsoft Azure that you can download from gethanellis.com. So please leave a comment if you enjoyed this video, or even if you didn't, and I'll look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much for listening.